Jonah and Jeremiah, two books which tell us that God will take us from our comfort zones into uncomfortable, unfamiliar territory when our comfort has led us to believe that we no longer need to surrender to his will and that we no longer need him. So in the book of Jonah, right, Jonah was told to preach against the Ninevites, a people in what's now Iraq, in Jonah 1:3. But he didn't want to do that, so he got a ship to a place called Tarshish, which is now southwest of Spain. And on that ship journey, there was a storm, and to calm the storm, the people on the ship had to throw Jonah overboard, and throwing him overboard into the sea meant that he got swallowed up by the famous big fish. So Jonah was now in a fish for 3 days and 3 nights, uncomfortable, unfamiliar territory being the insides of the fish, and he had nothing to do but be still in that fish and seek God, in which that's what he did through prayer. And through prayer, his heart became turned to the will of God, which was to preach against the Ninevites. And then once his heart turned, God spat him out of the fish back into a comfort zone, which was dry land, a place where he could stand with the ground beneath his feet. And then he gave him the instruction to go and preach against the Ninevites. And it's a similar thing in Jeremiah 29:10-14. So in verse 10, God told the Israelites that he was sending them into exile in Babylon for 70 years. And he says the reason he's doing that in verse 11 is because of the plans he has for them to prosper them and not to harm them, and to give them a future and a hope. And so the question is, well, why would you do that to someone you want to prosper and give a future and to give hope? And the reason is explained in verse 12-14. God says that because of them being an uncomfortable, unfamiliar territory of Babylon, which is similar to the fish for Jonah, the Israelites would end up turning to the Lord and seeking him with all of their heart, and then they would find him. And once they found him, just as Jonah found God in that fish, they will be spat out of their captivity in Babylon back into their comfort zone, which was Israel, just as Jonah was spat out of his uncomfortable, unfamiliar territory of the fish into the comfort zone of dry land. So